See this mug right here?
Yeah.
Sports Talk 900. That's where it all started. I was 21 years old. Sports Talk Radio, WMOP, AM 900, WGGG in Gainesville. Buddy Mark.
He's got the coffee mug up there. Sports Talk 990.
We're on the air, sir. We're on the air, sir. Rob, how are you?
I am doing great.
Welcome to the show.
It is Wednesday morning, September 4th, 2024. Rob Brown, Brendan Martin. Man, the SEC footprint alive and kicking. We've got a lot to talk about today. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover, battling the leadoff spot, followed by Jake Wimberley, the afternoon drive in Jackson, Mississippi. Always lots of great information and data from JW. Followed after that, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. Hogs got a quarterback. See what he can do. They got to go to Stillwater. Big one Saturday. That is a midday game out there against Mike Gundy and the Cowboys. That will be awesome. And Vince Ferrara checks in from up on the hill in Knoxville, folks. Check them out. I tell you what, Hewlett and Dunn, I was out there, one of our sponsors yesterday. Good grief. They have got so much awesome stuff. They got a 50% rack out there. Barber vest, 50% off. Outback barn coats, duck heads, great looking clothes, men's and women's, boots, work boots, jeans. They got the duck head pants sale. It's incredible. All different colors and sizes. Check them out. They're open every day, Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Hey, get pen and paper handy. Smash that subscribe button because here we come. A lot of note taking today. A lot to talk about on Sidelines.
Sidelines with Rob Brown. Talk sporty to me.
All right, Rob Brown here with you. Brendan Martin. Love those tunes, man. Sounds like a little heavy metal there in the background. I'll tell you what, watch Buddy Martin show last couple of nights, which I do just about every night. A lot to talk about right now. Listen, it's only been one game, and I understand fans get frustrated, but it's the beginning of year 3. If you hire somebody in your company to do work for you, let's say you hire a contractor to do some home improvements, and the first month that he's there, and he's, Jason said, send the link, please. I know he sent it to him, but if you hire a contractor and that first month they don't get anything done, and then the next month they do less, and the third month they're hitting you up for a raise, they need more money to finish the job, you get rid of them. That's what's making people so frustrated. It's not that Billy Napier is a bad guy. It's that he's got all the resources. Florida gave him all the money that he needed to hire the best staff and all these analysts and everything like that. There's no excuse. There's nothing that you can say for the job. It's like Brendan said. What you saw Saturday against Miami at home in the Swamp was worse than what you saw on the road at Utah last year when it was the Keystone Cops couldn't count the number of players on the field. There's no excuse for that. It all starts with the head coach. And go hire somebody to call the plays. And I thought Ron Roberts was a good defensive coordinator. I believe he is. But him and Steve Austin Armstrong, I mean, are they on the same page? You just got to wonder, Brendan. You've got such insight, you and your dad, Lauren, David Whitley, Franz, the whole crew down there, Ben. It's going to make fans anxious even after one game.
Yeah, I agree. And Rob, why don't you text him the link, because I don't know if he's getting it on his email if you have it. And but I'm Jason. I look, I've been fairly quiet this week. I've been on a lot of shows, and the last thing I want to do is be one. I've seen a lot of crap out there where Billy's fighting with the water bottle and all this stuff. Like, I don't get into all that stuff. I'm going to talk X's and O's and everything else. It just, Gator fan, it's disappointment. I think overall it's just disappointment. The only bright spot has ever been the recruiting and what he seems to be bringing in talent wise. But then, it always seems to, like, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. So, we've seen it for a decade here in Florida. I think we've talked about the demise of big programs. What's concerning is the timing on this, with all the NIL and transfer portal and how things are changing in college football. Because, we had the conversation last night. If you get rid of, say, Billy right now where are you? You're 3 years behind. You got to, start over. You rebuild again. Is really that where we're going to be? Because no matter who comes in, you're going to have a year at least of this, new regime. So it's hard because you want to stick with your coach. Florida's been replacing and replacing and replacing. Is that the right answer right now? Winning, like Buddy always says, winning solves a lot of problems. Going out and having a big win against Sanford on Saturday makes a huge difference. And then, you can go run a little mini run and win 3 or 4 games in a row, what's going to solve a lot of problems. If you're going to lose early, right? All of these things make sense in the, in our conversations over the years of being a fan of anything or anybody. And I think that's, a part of it. And I think right now it's just, there's a lot of frustration in Gainesville, understandably so. But this is where we are. So I'm more of a, let's not worry about yesterday as much. Like, how do you go forward? How do you win? And how do you win with DJ Lagway?
Well, you surround him with experienced players and playmakers, because you're putting a true freshman out there. The game's going to be a lot faster than it was in high school. That's a given. And it's not easy, but you got to put him in a position to win. What you don't want to do is take a freshman quarterback out there, put him in a position where he's going to fail, and then he loses his confidence, and you spend the whole season in group therapy, group hug mode. It doesn't work. At a place like Florida, you've got a standard. And Jason Caldwell's in with us now, and you got to live up to it. But, Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover. Man, we experienced this down at Auburn a couple of years ago with the Brian Harsin. A lot of talk down in Florida about Billy Napier. Auburn got a big win Saturday. What was your takeaway from all that happened? Because it was fast-paced, went to 2 10-minute quarters in the second half. And now you got Cal, a team that Auburn had to play definitely a full 60 and go to the mat out in California last year in Berkeley. I think it's going to be a tough match.
Yeah, we'll see. They struggled some with UC Davis week 1. This is a much different Auburn team than the one that went to Cal last year. Yeah. They were able to just play man defense outside and dare Auburn to throw the football. Teams may still try to do that this year, but this team has a lot more weapons to be able to compete and do those things now. We'll see what Saturday looks like. I think Auburn wins this game comfortably. Maybe I'm wrong. But I think this is a much different Auburn team than the one that went out there last year. And Cal's a team that obviously it's still a power opponent. I think they're probably middle of the pack in their new league, which means you'll have to go out and play well. I think this team has a lot more weapons now than it did a year ago.
Jason, nobody's more brutally honest than you are when it comes. You and Mark Murphy, you always have been. Philip Marshall, Nathan King, y'all's crew at Auburn Undercover. For you to say that carries a lot of weight. I've got so many people texting me, and the number one question was, were you in shock when you saw the right side of the offensive line with Connor Lew and Jeremiah Wright knocking people back? I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah, no, I talked about this offensive line.
You did.
It's a group that has a lot more options than any Auburn team we've seen in a long time. And we saw Jeremiah Wright kind of settling in. I talked to Jake Thornton this week, Auburn's offensive line coach, and he backed up what Hugh Freeze said. He said Dylan Wade was fantastic. They kind of been waiting on him in practice to kind of step into that role as a guard and kind of take it over. And then when they got in the game situation, it happened. And then even left tackle, they'd been kind of waiting for Percy Lewis, and he didn't play a ton of snaps.
Yeah.
They said he played really well, and Tyler Johnson's going to be really good. It was just a matter of he's just got to go out and learn, and had a few mistakes in terms of, some checks and some calls, things like that. But physically, he's talented. So, I mean, look, this is an offensive line group that has a chance to be really good as they continue to grow and kind of, develop in this, this new offensive scheme once again.
Jason, when you looked at those receivers, the one that all summer long I kept talking about, because I love track and field so much, is Malcolm Simmons. But again, you see all these guys play. Very few people go to as many games as you do. Were you surprised at Malcolm's abilities, and anybody else really? Most of them, he was like, okay, I expect that. But man, high jump champion, long jump, awesome.
Yeah, no, not really surprised in Malcolm. I've seen that out of him before and had watched him develop over the years. Perry's a big, long body that's really athletic. Cam's, you saw a little taste of it, but his route running and understanding of the game, along with his physical skills, are what separates him. And we saw a little bit of that with his double move on Saturday. I mean, it was just like, he's out there by himself in one-on-ones. And so not a surprise. The guy that we haven't seen a lot of Keandre Lambert-Smith. He wasn't here in the spring.
Yeah.
Our early look at the team when we had a full scrimmage, that he was out because that had rolled his ankle a little bit earlier in the week. So it's the first time really seeing him, but behind the scenes, people were telling me they thought he was an NFL wide receiver. And then you look at him Saturday, and he has the look of an NFL wide receiver. Smooth, veteran guy. Robert Lewis we didn't really get to see much of.
Yeah.
We saw Sam Jackson's athleticism on the go route. So that's the thing you look at and going, look, there's a lot more opportunities outside for this team, a lot more playmaking ability for this team. And so those are things that give you, as an offensive coordinator and a play caller, I thought that was probably the thing that stood out to me the most.
Yeah.
Was that there was a plan on offense. It wasn't just let's throw a play up against the wall and see if this one works. It was, okay, if we see this, we're doing this, and we're not backing off of that. And they did it throughout the game. Hank Brown in, no matter the score, they said, look, if they put 8 guys in the box, we're not just going to run it up the middle. We're going to RPO, and we're going to throw the football. And I loved seeing a plan and sticking to a plan on offense. That, to me, showed the ability to grow for some younger guys and let them actually work in a system.
Yeah. Jason, year 1 to year 2 is always where you want to see discernible progress. You damn sure don't want to be going backwards in year 2, certainly not year 3. Peyton Thorne, is he the happiest guy on the Auburn football team?
Yeah, I told him I ran into him this summer, and I was asking how different it was, and he just started smiling. And so right away that when you have guys to throw the ball to, and I go back to last week, and in practice one day I asked one of the staffer guys, and he walked by and said, look, we didn't win a 50-50 ball last year. And now all of a sudden you think that's the basis of this offense. Wow. The basis of this offense is if you get a one-on-one situation, that's where the ball's going. But you also have to hope that guy's going to make a play every once in a while, because you're not going to be wide open all the time. You're going to have to go up and make a contested catch. Can you do those things? And now you got guys that can do that. And you're not going to do it all the time, and you're not going to win 100% of them. But you got to win your fair share of those, because that's how RPO systems work. That's how you win in today's game, is by throwing the back shoulder in one-on-one situation. Those are things that you have to be able to do, and they've got a ability to win some of those now.
Yeah. Flipping over to the defense, anybody really jump out at you? Some new guys are in there, but depth is what you got to have on that front 7.
Yeah, that's probably, I don't know, individually against Alabama A&M, even though I thought their offensive line was probably going to be pretty good, and they were pretty solid. But I thought, Malik Blockton up front, young guy, made some plays, was pretty good, and so I thought that was good. Yeah, it's probably just the fact that they didn't do a ton of stuff. There's a whole lot more on this defense that we'll see probably beginning this week in terms of pressures, some of the things they're going to do. They were pretty basic last week, and they were still able to create some negative plays, do some of those things. I think we'll see them turn a whole lot more loose beginning this Saturday against Cal.
Ron Roberts was there last year, just 1 year. I thought he's did a good job. I mean, he needed help on offense, but what's the real difference in DJ Durkin? We've seen him around the SEC, Ole Miss, Texas A&M. He's got a pretty good resume, I think.
Yeah, I think it's just energy, excitement level. Excuse me. I think you see that from the players when they're talking about going and playing for a guy that is out there energetic. Ron Roberts is a good defensive coach, but it's a different mentality for these guys. It is aggressive, go get the football, go attack. And that's why Saturday really wasn't a whole lot of what I expect from them.
Yeah.
Saturday showcased the depth, the ability to rotate guys and play a bunch of different players. I think we'll see more aggressiveness as we move on from this group. And didn't see Isaiah Rakes, who probably is the best guy in the middle for this team right now. We didn't see him. They held him out because of a little minor injury. He'll play this week and be ready to go. But, I think it's more about the energy level probably and just that excitement attacking type of defense.
Okay. Jason, sorry we ran behind, and we'll get this straightened out, get you back on next week. Again, you're brutally honest when it comes to Auburn. You don't ever say something you don't mean, and that's why we love having you on here. What is it that Auburn fans don't know about this team that you can tell them as they get into this season? Because the crowds, like what you saw Saturday in Auburn, just tell me that we can't mess this thing up. Now you got players on the field, it's even more fun.
Yeah, I think it's still that there's still going to be a learning process.
Yeah,
the talent is there, and you're a much more talented roster, but there's still going to be some bumps in the road. I mean, you can see that when you look at those things. They're not glared and not magnified against Alabama A&M, but there are a couple of routes that were wrong. A couple of offensive line calls that gotten done wrong, and obviously defense. There were a couple of alignment issues, things like that. Those are going to be mistakes that are made when you have so many new players and a lot of freshmen playing. But that's how you grow as a program. We've seen it from Florida State. If you're just replacing guys with other transfers, sooner or later you're going to miss every once in a while because you don't know what you have.
Yep.
You got to continue to develop, plug a transfer in here or there. And I still think that's the way things have to be built. And that's what they're trying to do. But to do that, you may not be ready to be a 12-win team right now. But I think you're building a program instead of building a team. And I still think that's the way to go.
Absolutely agree. Yeah.
Jason, I just wanted to ask you real quick. We were discussing last night, Hugh Freeze did the bunch of Gators, and this air raid offense, this has been around a long time. We have a guy named Lauren Meadows, who's a former coach, and we were discussing it last night. How do you think that plays out without going into, I know it's a general question, but how do you think that plays out in the SEC for Hugh Freeze and that offense? There's a lot of people say that's not an SEC sort of offense.
Yeah, I think the key to this offense is it's not going to be just throwing the football. The key to the offense is going to be taking what the defense gives you, or rather taking advantage of what the defense gives you. If they're able to throw the football and continue to throw it, and all of a sudden you have to put two high safeties on the field and you're backing people off the line of scrimmage, they'll run the football. They averaged almost 10 yards a carry Saturday, but Alabama A&M was like, look, we're not going to let you just run it all day. So they said, okay, well, we'll throw it. And that's the key, I think, is being able to do either thing depending on how the defense and the game dictates it. So I think that's the ultimate goal. I don't think the ultimate goal is, and like I said, I don't think that Peyton Thorne's going to be a guy that averages 300 yards passing a game by the time this year's over with, because I think teams are going to go, look, we've got to play them more straight up. and the more teams play you straight up, the more you're able to run the football. And so I think that'll be a part of it. But I think Saturday it was dictated by, okay, Alabama A&M, we don't have the horses to play straight up front, so we have to try to take away something, and Auburn was able to just take advantage of it.
Yeah. Jason Caldwell, Auburn Undercover. What's your X handle and whatever else ways people can follow you, because you put out a lot of content every day, and it's really, really valuable.
Yeah, you can check me out on Twitter and Instagram, both at ITAT Jason. So that's the easiest way. But follow us on YouTube. Obviously, our YouTube channel, Auburn Undercover, and find us there at auburnundercover.com, part of the 24/7 network.
Jason, thank you so much for joining us, man. We'll do it again next week.
Thanks, Jason.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Always love it, man. He is.
All right, we've got loaded up green and I call orange and blue room. We got two more before we go right up over there. Gotta say happy birthday to my boy Terry Bradshaw. Had a birthday yesterday. He listens sometimes. He watches on Facebook. He was watching last night. Just want to say happy birthday to my godfather, Terry Bradshaw. That's some funny stories of that. Let's bring in Jake and Dudley. Welcome, guys, to the broadcast. How are you today?
Hey, Jake Wimberley, Jackson, Mississippi, ESPN 105.9, The Afternoon Drive, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net. Jake, Dudley lives in Reynolds Razorback Stadium. He lives on the 70th floor in the upper deck this time of year or whatever. But, man, let me get started with Jake. Here's a question from and I'm curious. We all watch this, but thoughts on Oklahoma. Defense looked great. Offense is there. Just needs to get comfortable together as a unit. Hey, that first game against Temple, all I know is that new tradition at the end of the third quarter, they played the Toby Keith song. He is a Sooner. He's a great American, one of my favorite country music singers of all time, a wildcatter, just an alpha male badass. I think Oklahoma, they're like everybody else in the SEC. Who should play the first weekend, but they got talent, and get in line. It's going to be an awesome year. But, Jake, first, your thoughts on anything going on with Mississippi State, what I said about Oklahoma, agree or disagree, and we'll get Dudley involved here and get this band playing.
Yeah, Oklahoma's going to be fine. Like a lot of these teams, you play an FCS opponent or a lesser opponent. Week 2, it turns up a little bit on the heat. Some it turns up a lot. Some turn the heat up in week 1. So I think Oklahoma's going to be a team. I had them at 9 wins before the season starts. I still think they're going to be a 7 to 9 win team. They'll be very competitive in the league. As far as Mississippi State, we'll find out a lot more about this team Saturday night. You got to kind of pace yourself. They've got the late kick out in Arizona, Scottsdale, so they'll kick at 9:30. Blake Shapen looks the part of a nice quarterback, a guy that can make things happen for Mississippi State defensively. Again, I think they're going to be tested this week. They're an underdog in Vegas. I think it'll be a 4-quarter ball game, and it should be really, really fun. For Ole Miss, it's going to be a couple weeks until we know anything about this team. They'll play Middle Tennessee. They'll get another big win this week. I think for Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss, it's just at this point continue to evolve and stay healthy.
I watched Jeff Lebby. Man, that crowd in Starkville was going crazy. I also watched Arkansas Dudley Thursday night, and I'm trying to contain myself, but Jim Cherry, Robert Hill, Michael Sag, I got a lot of Tommy Christianberry, Scott Paul. I got a lot of Arkansas friends. It
was a happy openers for 14th, 15th, and 16th teams in the SEC.
Yeah.
I don't know how long that's going to last for all of them, but 14, 15, and 16 felt really good after this week, and one of them was Arkansas, and of course they've got the big challenge this week of going to Oklahoma State. That's going to set the narrative right away.
Well, Dudley, what I like about you, just like Jason Caldwell and Jake, y'all are brutally honest. Sometimes you might hurt people's feelings, but I'll get the truth. I will say, just when I met Taylor Green at Media Days, I asked him about Bobby Petrino, and that's the thing. He's like, it's like, you better be paying attention when that man's in the room. He just elevates everybody's game, and I don't care who you're playing. When you execute like they did against UAPB, there's something you can take away positive from that. I think a lot.
Yeah, let's just be honest. Last year's Arkansas offense could not have had anybody on the field on the defense and still would not have scored 10 times. Might not even scored 3 times. It is a much more efficient looking offense. Certainly UAPB, who is a great coach and a great dude in Alonzo Hampton, it was very overmatched. These teams go in with 63 scholarship players, and some of them are hurt, and it's just tough for them. But they get to take home the big check. Yeah. But the offense certainly looked more cohesive. And I would say that because, last year, as we've talked about many times, the Dan Enos experience went truly bad. Something like that Fry Festival they had, a decade ago or so, whatever. But, that first game with Bobby Petrino, the things that you could notice the most were that people were running the routes they were supposed to. There were plenty of them in the pattern. And also that, Talon really didn't have that much pressure the whole night. And one time he did, he went, like 36 yards, but it was 80 yards, across the field.
Exactly.
It was fun to watch. We're going to learn a lot more this week.
Yeah. Jake, I know you just got a few minutes, and I want to get it out of you and about Mississippi State, Jeff Lebby. Talent-wise, I don't know, last year, when Zach Arnett took over off a 9-win team, they went backwards. Jeff Lebby's, again, one of these people that makes everybody believe, doesn't he?
No, he does. At least for now, he does. He said everything right. Won the press conference. For Mississippi State standards, he's winning recruiting. People have bought into what he's doing. Now, we'll see how this team handles adversity because that's going to strike at some point pretty quickly, I would think. So, but yeah, up to this point, everybody is buying into what he's selling.
All right. When you look at the SEC right now, 16 teams, your matrix and your graphs that you put out, I think you had 5 teams log jammed up at the top at 10-2. Let's go over that right now. After week 1, how you feel about it?
Yeah. Let me go back over here. I know you guys can't see this. I'm going to pull this real quickly in the SEC. Prior to the season, what I had is, I had Georgia as an 11-win team. I have Texas as an 11-win team. Ole Miss as an 11-win team. And then I had Tennessee as a 10-win team. Then I had LSU, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Texas A&M with 8 to 9 wins. After week 1, kind of chalking through, and of course it's a small sample size. I think I sent you my playoff poll. I have Georgia at number 1 as far as SEC teams, Alabama at number 3. Texas at number 6, Ole Miss at number 8. I have Missouri at number 12, Tennessee at number 13. And again, it's a very, very small sample size. So we'll see, as Alabama goes, for instance, to Wisconsin next week, what does that look like? Georgia continues to play all these other teams. But that's kind of where I've got those teams right now. And again, Georgia still, I think, heads and tails better than the rest of the field, at least today, beating a quality opponent in Clemson. You look at Notre Dame, I think they beat a quality opponent in Texas A&M, and then Miami. So, you've only got a few teams that have done that so far in one weekend. And again, this whole thing's just got to shake out as we go.
Jake, when you looked at Florida against Miami, and I was wrong. I don't have a paper bag to wear because I feel like an idiot. I thought Florida's talent and desperation in the swamp would lead to a win, and it was the opposite. You were really high on Miami. I pointed out they hadn't had a double-digit win season, Dudley and guys, in like one in the last 20 years. Well, that didn't matter Saturday. Is Miami that good, Florida that bad, a little bit of both, or do you have a different opinion?
Somewhere in the middle, probably somewhere in the middle, right? Look, Miami should be good. They have recruited extremely well. John Ruiz and a lot of the boosters out there pumped a ton of money into that program. They went out and got Cam Ward, who looked like, kind of a poor man's, a Walmart version of Patrick Mahomes on Saturday, with his little sidearm passes and things of that nature. Yeah. So, they should be good. And you look at their schedule, it sets up if they will not, screw this up. If Mario Cristobal doesn't cristobal this thing himself, then they should have a really, really big year. As far as Florida is concerned, it'll be interesting to see. I know you guys are all over it, especially with Buddy Martin and Brennan and those guys, where this program goes. Already on my show yesterday, Mississippi State fans were all over Ole Miss fans saying, yep, Kiffin's gone. I'm like, guys, are we really going to do this for 13 more weeks? 13 weeks.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. please no. And I think Lane Kiffin loves it in Oxford. And I don't know what people think. Ole Miss doesn't have money. They're out of their mind. That tobacco settlement money they have in the billions between Dickie Scruggs and those other 14 attorneys. And they will spend. They've gotten a taste of that 11-win season last year. And Jake, I know you just got a few more minutes, but Dudley, I want to throw this at you and back to Jake. When you look at money, and you think about, and we're going to talk about the Razorbacks more in just a couple of minutes, but the big picture, who's going to outbid who in today's world? Anybody? I mean, in the SEC, they've all got money.
They do. Some of them use it more wisely than others. I think it's much like an NFL, a cap where you've got to make sure you're giving the right people the right amount of money. Sometimes you give quarterback too much, offensive line not enough. Not that I'm saying that about Arkansas or anything last year.
Yeah.
I will. That was tossed out there. But I think it's got to be managed. But you're right. Everybody, for the most part, has the amount of money to get the players they need. Now it's about your coach. It's about it's about your fans and how much they support it. I give Oklahoma State credit. Last week they tried to put the thing on their helmet to be able to get people to donate right away with the QR code and stuff. And in listening to Gundy this week, he's still going to try that. And I don't blame him in today's market. Do whatever you can.
Yeah, I agree, Jake. Close. I know you have to go, but what already on day one? That's the talk. Kiffin is going, but what is the feeling among Ole Miss fans after a 76-0 win? I mean, they're going to be out there for the next few weeks. They've got to go to Wake Forest. Are they concerned about that? What do you think about that matchup? What's the first sign, first game you think Ole Miss will be challenged?
I don't think Ole Miss fans are worried. I think that if you talk to most of them, they're going to eye those SEC ball games, the South Carolina trip coming up here in about a month, the Kentucky game coming in, Kentucky coming to Vaught-Hemingway Stadium here, in a little less than a month. So that's when we're really going to know, what this Ole Miss team is. How dialed in are they? Will they possibly go get dinged on the road at South Carolina? Could Kentucky come in and make it a game? And so I think that's the two games that they're eyeing. I think for the next 3 weeks, it's cruise control, and it's all about, celebrations, playoff rankings, and everything for Ole Miss fans, at least for the next 3 weeks.
Yeah, and, you've got 4 straight non-conference games. Then after that, it's going to be crazy. Last thing, what are you talking about right now with Mississippi State that makes you think they can get to be bowl eligible? I mean, because in the first year, coach coming in, I don't know what the expectations are nationally, but that program better than the national guys.
I think you got to go get a win this weekend. It's imperative. You've got to beat Arizona State on the road. There's only so many wins on this schedule. You'll have another non-conference game late in the season that you can go get, but you've got to get this one. And then, of course, one coming up next week. And then, of course, I think that Florida game is extremely pivotal for Mississippi State. If you can get to 3-0, that Florida game is really, really pivotal. Now, it's pivotal for both teams and both programs, but on different ends of the spectrum. And then, if for some reason Mississippi State was to grab 3 or 4 right out the gate, then you got to look down the road and say, okay, where can we go grab another ball game or 2? And that'll be the goal and objective. Take Texas off, take Georgia off, take Ole Miss off, take those games off. It's just where can we go grab a game or 2 to maybe get to 5 and or 6 wins. But it starts this weekend with Arizona State. They have to get that one.
Jake, part of the SEC Sidelines Sports Network. How do people follow you, keep up with all your great work, and look forward to having you back on again next week?
No, absolutely. I appreciate it. Always glad to be here. Just on X at Jake Wim. Shows 3 to 6 will be on today. You can stream it if you're outside the state of Mississippi. Just go to thezone1059.com.
Will do, man. Have a great one down in the Magnolia State.
Appreciate it.
Love it. You bet. Dudley, man, again, you've got the greatest view. You wake up in that state. I do love that background. He
was talking about Mississippi State, but he might as well have been talking about Arkansas. That's the same scenario here. You got to go win to Oklahoma State this weekend.
Yeah.
You got UAB the following weekend after that, then Auburn and Texas A&M. You got to give yourself a shot, get to 3-0 and go from there. But, I was sitting here saying he might as well just, ask the question to me. I'd have given the same answer.
Well, and that's both of y'all are so good, and I know you've been on his show, and I love being on Jake's show. It's because y'all just look at it, you cut through the BS. This matchup in Stillwater, that's a tough place to play. I mean, those people out there, damn, Oklahoma State reminds me a lot of Mississippi State and Auburn and A&M. Their fan base is rabid. You're coming in from the SEC. I imagine a lot of Hog fans are going to make that trip to Stillwater. I mean, they don't all live in Fayetteville. The guys on TV always will say, that's a long trip from Fayetteville. Arkansas has got a lot of fans in Little Rock. And I just checked. They've got more fans, probably alumni in Dallas-Fort Worth than anywhere. So talk about what in this matchup Saturday makes you think Arkansas has a really compelling chance to win, and what keeps you up at night pulling your hair out if you're an offensive or defensive coordinator in Fayetteville, like Bobby Petrino or Travis Williams.
Like nothing keeps me up at night, and there's no hair left to pull out.
Okay.
But what's the interesting thing is this is the shortest road, unless you count Little Rock as a road trip. This is the shortest road trip for Arkansas all year. 3 hours over to Oklahoma State. They'll have as many. They will have sold as many tickets as they will allow them to get. And I think that's 8,000. You talk about Oklahoma State, 50,000 rabid fans. They believe in their football team. They believe in their coach. They believe in their running back, and they believe in their seventh-year quarterback, Alan Bowman, 24.
Yeah.
I understand one of his kids is going to be at the game, but
that's probably not surprised in this world.
But I think the interesting thing with Arkansas is they have 38 new players here. The vast majority of the portal guys that they hit on all played really good last year and have given, the fans and the coaches opportunity to think they're going to be better. Again, Oklahoma State, Coach Mike Gundy came out, he said, Arkansas has as much talent as any team will play all year. Now, I don't know if I'm ready to go there, but that was quite a coach speak statement. And allowed me to get the lead for my article, that next day. We are going to find that out, though. And I hate to keep harping on it. And I've been harping on it, I think, since, pretty much about the end of last season, that it's just a huge game for them. As far as things that, lead me to believe they might have a chance over there, the running game. I think they couldn't get 3 yards, last year if they needed to, whether it's on first down or third down. I'm confident in what Bobby Petrino brings to the table in terms of his mind, his plays. You got to go over and execute. Taylor Green, that athleticism, he didn't have the greatest game throwing the ball, obviously. And, if he gets that down, then he's going to be electric to watch. And, and then the defense, I guess see what is a little bit this week. They do have a lot of athletes in a lot of spots. It looks a lot different than it did last year. The same guys coordinating it, they just have better players over there.
Yeah. Well, depth wise, how big of an upgrade are you on the two and three deep depth chart on your front seven on defense?
I think they're better. But I think there are a few guys that, are going to have to come along, and Coach Pittman and defense coaches have talked about this, that, they believe they've got the guys, but until they get out there and prove it against a quality opponent. And again, not trying to denigrate UAPB in any way, but it is what it is. I mean, not very many teams can give up 10 touchdowns in 10 possessions. And they were overmatched. But I do think that, there are reasons for optimism. But I on our pick for Hogville, I picked Oklahoma State 28-17. And, that's just how I feel honest about the situation until Arkansas goes over there and shows me they can win this year.
What you think about your –
Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, what you think about your running back transfer from Utah, their leading rusher? And And Taylon Green is going to need that, safety net to hand off a few times. I mean, he showed a lot of, not potential. He showed a lot of talent, not just as a passer, but as a runner. And that for a first game, again, that's got to keep coaches on the other side worried.
Yeah, Jaquindon Jackson is a dude. I mean, that's just clear. Rodney Hill from Florida State has a chip on his shoulder. We can go over later with the fact that his agent / uncle / whatever we go there was trying to sell him to the highest bidder and wasn't really communicating with Florida State and everybody too well there. But the guy that didn't, Rashad Dubinion is a guy who had some great games last year, who had some great segments. He didn't even get much run. And I'm anxious to see him get out there. And then you've got the 253-pound freshman, Braylon Russell, who is from Benton and showed his. They're okay in the run game. And there's some dudes back there. And that's interesting because some dudes transferred out, including one, Rocket Sanders, who I saw had 88 yards for South Carolina on Saturday.
It's funny to listen to South Carolina people. They weren't real excited about his numbers, 16 carries, 88 yards in his first game. But offensive line, does Sam Pittman, it looks to me, what do you think? He's real comfortable having Bobby Petrino running the offense. In fact, you don't see many head coaches that happy after a win, regardless of opponent.
Yeah. One of the things that I try to pick up on are things, that come outside of what's going on the playing field.
Yeah.
You hear Coach Pittman, and I always say coach because that's just, I want to be respectful of their position. Yeah. But you hear Bobby and Sam, and they talk, they use those names to address each other instead of coaching this, coaching that, and all that. You can tell they're very comfortable with each other. You can tell that Coach Pittman is very aware that the success of Bobby Petrino's offense this year is going to be have a lot to do with the success of him coaching next year or whatever. It appears to be a nice mesh. Yeah. And I just think that helps. And we've gone over before that everybody hated each other around here last year. The dropping of Dan, and I still think Dan Enos is a good coach, good guy, but it just didn't work last year.
Yeah. You think maybe, and bring in Vince Ferrara when we can, he's going to join us, but it almost makes me think that KJ last year, I'm not sure how much he wanted to be there. And when Rocket goes to Dallas to do his rehab, there went your locker room. All right, Vince Ferrara, Sports Animal 99.1 in Knoxville, Tennessee. Put the app on your cellular phone like I do. I was going to, by the way, say something. The turtle box behind me, Audrey took it away up to school to play with, let the kids listen to music. I was on the Spring River a couple of weeks ago. The thing fell in the water. We were having some Hams beers on that river, I'll admit it. Fell in the water 3 times in the Spring River. Went under. Doesn't even phase it. Was still cranking out all the great music. Get you a turtle box. They've got them at Hewlett and Dunn. They're on their 6th order of those things. They got them in bright orange. I think they got them red, black, tan, green. The turtle box at hewlettanddunn.com. Vince, watching Nico Iamaleava. And by the way, most of these national guys that get these big paychecks, they cannot pronounce his name. Shame on him, man. Nico Iamaleava. Dudley, he's kind of scary. And so is, I said this about Taylon Green. These big, tall guys that whip that ball around like a baseball, Vince, kind of reminded me of Brendan Martin when he was on the field.
Well, now, Rob, you're just showing off.
I don't throw the ball. I was a tight end. Thank you, Ben.
He was a tight end.
But yeah, you got that pronunciation down. It is unfortunate. People better practice around the country because these analysts are going to find themselves talking about him a lot more.
I think so.
It's incredible what he's done. We had a quote yesterday in wide receiver coach Kelsey Pope. He's a former high school quarterback and played wide receiver, so he knows about that relationship between the two. And he had, I thought, one of the more meaningful and impactful compliments towards a guy not at his position that I can recall at Tennessee. And he said that there's a handful of guys where receivers love playing for their quarterback and want to catch balls from him. And Nico is that already. And he's only played 2 games, but those guys have caught tons of passes from him in practice. He's been here last year. But he said they absolutely love playing for him. He puts the ball on the money. He is he is unselfish. He works with those guys and communicating with them. I mentioned to you guys weeks ago, and when camp first started, that practices were different this year with Nico because he is about business. Yes, he's the 5-star with the NIL and all this stuff. He could very well be a me guy. He is not. When guys come into the program, he immediately goes to him and said, let me know what I can do for you. Let's work. Let's throw, all those kind of things. He's made a great impression, and they even call him 8-ball apparently since he wears the number 8 and he can ball. There's no doubt about it. Everything.
That's awesome.
we had Heath Schuler on the show Monday. He's our Monday morning quarterback. Obviously, great career at Tennessee. Matt Sims, who's an analyst for ESPN Radio and Sirius XM Channel 88, and both of those guys this week just raving about Nico, and not just his numbers, because those are one thing. The accuracy, the poise, and then getting to his fourth progressions. I mean, this guy is a total package right now. College football better be aware of Nico Iamaleava, because when you get into the bigger games, people will notice him even more. Big tests to come, but man, this guy's got it all.
As the kids say these days, he's 10 toes in and all about business.
Yeah,
there you go.
Or as my kids say, he's OTC, off the chain. That's another one they like to say.
That's true.
But one for sure is you got a chancellor, Dudley, this Donde Plowman, Audrey's cousin, Mark Ham. I call him Rocky Top Tennessee Tailgate Report. He's on a committee now with Donde Plowman. They meet every month at Tennessee to chart the course for the future. Y'all got a baller as a chancellor. This woman loves football. I mean, she loves it. She's not some pinhead sitting up there in the office that doesn't know what's going on. But we know there are going to be challenges this year, Dudley. We talked about that. I mean, Saturday for Talon Green, and before you know it, you got games that are going to be challenges. Dudley, when you look at the challenges that Arkansas faced, they went to the portal, brought in 38 new guys. What kind of grade, based on the first body of evidence, game 1, do you give them on what they did just with the portal?
A. And I mean, and clearly, I've talked about how overmatched UAPB was, but again, they had guys in here last year and staff and in situations that they couldn't execute against Air, and they were able to execute Saturday. Against there were 11 people over there on the field. They may not have been 5 stars, 4 stars, or whatever, but they executed a lot better, much better communication. There were people smiling. There wasn't much of that last year. Before the game, after the game, during the game. There were some things that I would say that they really hit on most of the portal guys. There were some things that I'll be looking at for the second game. Ollie Gordon is a big-time challenge for these linebackers. They had 5 linebackers go out, 5 linebackers come in, and all of those, Larry Worth, Stephen Dix, Switzer, all played really well against the opponent that they played against. Same way with the defensive line. I mean, it was a shutout of Paul Skeens type, pitching there. And I'm anxious just to see against a better opponent. Way back in the day, I would say, hey, this team is really good. They're going to have a great season. I'm 61 now, and I'll wait just a second.
Yeah, well, it is fortuitous when you can go 10 for 10. It's a good sign. And again, I'll just say this, Bobby Petrino, just look everywhere he's been at the trail of success. All right, Vince, I'm not sure if I-40 is wide enough for the avalanche of orange and white clad volunteer supporters who will be pushing through the great Smoky Mountains. I drove from Knoxville to Charlotte back in February. By the way, picked up another Buc-ee's, the one in Sevierville. I know Vince will stop there maybe to get a souvenir, maybe a snack. Wow. I was in downtown Charlotte, Dudley, right by the ACC headquarters, and there's Bank America Stadium. That city is awesome. It's so clean. My son Wilson lives there. Tennessee and NC State. Don't be fooled by Dave Doran and the Wolfpack struggling. I'm not, against Western Carolina. Can any of y'all name the nickname, the mascot of Western Carolina?
Catamounts.
I knew it. Well, I shouldn't have. That's not fair. That's like asking Michelangelo to paint something for you. All right, Vince, let's talk about that matchup, because I love what Dudley just said, because Dudley doesn't freely give out compliments just to make people feel good. Your thoughts on this matchup with NC State, because it's a big, big game, not just for Tennessee, but for NC State. But I think the crowd probably be about 50-50.
Yeah, I might give Tennessee a little bit of an edge on that. I know, Raleigh is closer, but man, Tennessee fans I think are going to be there and jumping on those things.
Insane. Yeah.
Yeah. You can put a Tennessee game anywhere. They're going to find their way there. It's the Duke's Mayo Classic. So unfortunately, because Will Levis's mayonnaise cologne deals with Hellman's, not going to be able to pass that out afterwards to the winner. There's a conflict of sponsors.
Who's got the deal with Hellman's?
Will Levis, Titans quarterback. He did a commercial where the scent of mayonnaise is the cologne, and they sold out of it, so they're not making it anymore. But anyway,
that's so rough. Dude.
that would only work here in my house with Patriot if it was Chick-fil-A mayonnaise.
Yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, maybe Miracle Whip. I don't know. I mean, mayonnaise.
But Brendan, it was
Dukes. There's a pile of Dukes.
It was intentional to get a lot of attention and raise money for charity. So that was kind of the whole purpose. It will go viral. So, but in terms of this matchup, there was a lot of people and some in this media that were trying to convince Tennessee fans, you better take NC State seriously. They're not going to be a walkover assumed win. And then NC State did that against Western Carolina, where they needed a couple of fourth quarter touchdowns to separate, and Tennessee by 20 and 30, so good luck trying to talk people into NC State being a threat. But I do agree with you. They have one of the better wide receivers in the country in Casey Concepcion, and he is second since the start of last year in touchdown receptions with 13. 800 receiving yards last year, over 300 yards rushing. That's only been done by 4 Power 5 receivers to do both, and he also had a touchdown pass, kind of like he's like a Randall Cobb type. That's how they use him there. They move him all over the place. So Tennessee's been working on their communication on the back end with a lot of new pieces. They were not threatened at all by Chattanooga. There'll be a different story against NC State with a veteran quarterback with Grayson McCall, transfer from Coastal Carolina. So Tennessee's got to be on point with their communication with the way they move Concepcion around. They have some good running backs. They also very much took advantage of the transfer portal. Running back from Duke, tight end from UConn, and Jolie, who's played at Neyland Stadium before last year. So they got a veteran offensive line, the 8th most experienced offensive line in terms of starts. Tennessee's is 3rd. So they have a good defense. One that leads in the last 3 seasons, they have the most interceptions in the country of 51. It's a big number. It's tied with Iowa. So they get their hands on passes. They're going to turn you over. So but on the flip side of that, they haven't seen anyone with Tennessee's tempo. There's not anyone in the ACC that can match up to Tennessee's tempo, and certainly not execution. So SMU maybe, but they haven't played them. They just joined the league. So it will be new for Tennessee in stepping up a competition, but NC State and what they're doing in terms of style of play. Some good matchups there. NC State has experienced. They're a good team, solid team. So if the Vols are off, or if the venue somehow throws them off, NC State can be a threat, but I still think Tennessee's the better team.
Yeah, Dudley, Vince, Brent, can anybody name this player whose nickname is former Tennessee quarterback, the Silva Streak?
No, not that one.
Jimmy Streeter, 1979.
Okay. All right.
And he's from Silva, North Carolina. Bryson City, North Carolina is where Heath Schuler's from. And they've had some great ones from that state. Dudley, Jay Green, he was from Kannapolis, North Carolina. Yeah. So, Dudley, that being said, you talk about these quarterbacks, and someone, Dr. Arnoff, where does Tennessee get all these good quarterbacks? Well, they come for a lot of reasons, but now I think Nico's got a hell of an NIL deal. Dudley, you talk about this 38 new guys in the portal, and you always, Vince, what Dudley loves to do, and I love it. He goes 1 through 44. Arkansas is pretty good. It's 45 to 66 and 67 to 85. I'm going to ask both of y'all this. I'll start first with Dudley. I feel like I'm a judge in the courtroom. The defense, please your case. Let's talk about 45 to 66 for Arkansas, and that includes those guys in the portal, so it must be better.
Yeah, in the words of Perry Mason or really Hamilton Berger, I'm going to reserve my opening until after this game in terms of that 1 to 44, 44 to 85 and all that. I mean, I would love to say yes, but that's not an informed opinion, we'll see. Now, I did want to throw a couple things in there as we go about this answer. Love the name Blind Squirrel Sports, by the way. Yes, Braylon Russell is a 253-pound running back. He's a load, but yeah. That was one of the questions that he asked. Is Nico a top 5 quarterback in the SEC? It's early. Yeah, it is early. He certainly has the potential. I totally believe that by the middle of the season, we'll be saying that definitely. But again, it's a little early. Yeah, because I haven't seen all of them in action in a studying session. I can watch them on TV, but there's a difference.
Yeah, there is. Vince, that's a good question. Blind Squirrel Sports. And I got to tell you, I love these viewers because they've got a lot. So, hey, load us up, questions and comments. Vince, respond. Do you see him in the top 5?
Yeah, I think, yes, if you're projecting ahead to the end of the year, I said it before the year, I thought he would be a top 4 or 5 quarterback. That's saying a lot because you have some really good returning QBs. And then there's the Heisman talk, which I think might have been a touch early, but who knows? If he performs on big stages, he's already in some people's top 10. So if he wins at Oklahoma and has a great game, he's shooting up that list, regardless of what his classification is. So I think the potential, absolutely, he will be a top 5 quarterback at the end of the year. There aren't flaws with him. And in terms of the depth question that you asked, Rob, Tennessee played 94 reserve players. That's not counting the starters against Chattanooga. 94 backups played in that game.
The Guinness people just texted me. The Guinness people, Dudley, look at Dudley up there, the wise sage that he is, and Brendan's over there. Like, wait, 94 backups?
Yeah, on top of the 22 that started. That's according to the game book that I'm looking at right now. It's just
116 balls hit the field. That's got to be a record.
First of all, that's a tremendous stat. I'll throw out that I was going to throw out that Arkansas took 92 and played 83 and thought that was something. But, 94 reserves. Wow.
A bunch of walk-ons played, and look, one of them might be in their 3 running back rotation in Deshaun Bishop. He was a record-setting, led the nation in rushing from down the road at Carnes High School, was committed to Coastal Carolina, and then came to Tennessee as a preferred walk-on. Banged up last year with the injuries at running back. He really got a lot of first-team reps in the spring and did really well. And then he got a touchdown in his debut in a Tennessee uniform. I think he's got a great chance to be in a three-man back rotation as a walk-on, and that's not because they don't have any good players. That's just because here's a guy that is capable and had FBS offers and decided to walk on at Tennessee. So that's where they've improved their depth. To kind of get back to your original question, Rob, this is the most depth, and Heupel has said it. A lot of the coaches have said it. This is the most depth they've had on this team. They had 35 oars on the depth chart, and Heupel this week was like, some of y'all gave me grief for having all those oars on the depth chart. Well, we knew who the starters were, but what he was trying to do was say, we got a lot of players that are really close that can do the job as well. And they played a lot of players, and they played them early. That hasn't happened under Heupel before. So that is also a sign that they know they have some good players, and they don't have to get those extra snaps on the starters. James Pierce Jr. played 10 plays in the game. Didn't show up on the stat sheet, and people are like, well, what happened to James Pierce Jr.? It's Chattanooga. Why are you putting extra snaps on him now? Again, you had no defensive linemen other than a Leo who played, edge rusher who played 20 snaps. That's the most any defensive lineman played. That's smart. And it also shows you got more depth than you have in a long time.
I love the walk-on stories. The Arkansas's offensive line did not start a walk-on for like the first time in a guy that came in and was a walk-on for the first time in like 12 years.
Wow.
And that kind of tells you where the situation that there were some walk-ons that were, not recruited and came in and developed and all that. And others is, you should be having 5 guys on scholarship that start, on offensive line. And so that was an interesting stat. The other walk-on story I loved this weekend was Colorado's walk-on punter a couple of years ago is now their starting tailback. Huh?
Wow.
I mean, what's your safe word, Dudley? I mean, give me a break.
Awesome break.
Mexico.
I'm going to throw one at you along the line of what Vince just alluded to. Jordan Travis, really, why was he playing as much as he played Florida State, University of North Alabama last year? How costly was his injury? Well, let's start with, in the eyes of the CFP committee, they made Florida State a different team, and they got nixed from the playoffs, which led to 31 players quitting and them going out and just being clubbed to death by Georgia, 63-3. I think Georgia just scored again. Yeah, they did. They quit on them. That toxicity, that cancer has just been in the locker room. Then we don't need to be in the ACC. Let's sue the playoff committee. Let's get out of the conference. They go to Georgia Tech. They get beat by they lose to Georgia Tech in Dublin. And then the game against Boston College Monday night, I took BC straight up. I was like, you know what? I'm going to be crazy, but I think Bill O'Brien is one of the best coaches. I know people say what he did at Alabama. No, he saved Penn State football, just like Terry Bowden saved Auburn football from going into the abyss of hell irrelevance in 93, 94 when Auburn was on probation those 2 years. They went 21-1. That's Bill O'Brien. He could be your next coach at Florida. Who knows? But I'm with y'all, man. I say get your starters out there, but, man, empty the bench. It's good for morale, guys, isn't it?
Yeah, and think about it. If you're practicing and working just as hard as all the starters, now you get a reward. And then think about how dialed in you will be moving forward. If you're a backup, whether you're a scholarship or walk-on or whatever, how invested you will be now that you know there's the possibility of playing time and how good you feel about getting out on the field. Now you're practicing better. That makes other guys around you practice better. Everyone's connected and motivated. That just fuels the team continuing to improve all the way around and helping the culture too.
Yeah.
Hey, I think Mike Norvell is a really good coach. I mean,
absolutely love him.
Successful and all that, but Florida State concentrated on since the end of the regular season last year. They've concentrated on everything except the actual football game.
All the wrong stuff.
That goes from the top on down, and that's why they're in the situation they're in. Because there is no way whatsoever they should be 0-2, and they are.
Yeah. You got to. I mean, Gus Malzahn did it after Auburn lost to Florida State. You got to get 13 seconds, not better, but butter, Butter, and that carried into the season. You got to put it behind you. It's like I grew up playing tennis, man. You get aced, move to the next court. If you're still feeling sorry for yourself, you're going to get aced again. It's one thing to get beat. It's another thing to stay beat. If I heard that once, I've heard it a million times from every coach that I've ever respected, and that's because they care. Dudley and Vince, we got a few minutes left. I want to ask first, Vince, anything jump out at you with those helmet communications to the players on the field? Not that it was a tight game and anything like that, but I didn't see as many penalties in the first few games. That's all I'm noticing.
Yeah, and Tennessee was pretty clean, just 1 turnover and 6 penalties in the game. And Josh Heupel teams have been pretty highly penalized, have been in the upper end in the league in penalties. So it was cleaner. And Tennessee's tempo was fantastic. People were wondering, all right, is that going to slow them down? You call the play into the quarterback. The quarterback has to relay it. All the players on offense were looking to the sideline for a quick call. They were still signaling in with their 3 guys and the covered background stuff. The only thing they're using that helmet communication for is not for the plays. It's for reminders. And that's the case on defense as well. It was designed to speed up the game and to clean up the stealing of signs. But Tennessee's not worried about that. And I think other teams are taking that approach too, where why slow the game down? Call it from the sideline and then remind your quarterback about tempo, where we're going to the football, what defenses you're seeing, make sure we get 3 here. We don't lose the opportunity for a field goal. Those little things. That's how it's being used for, not to call in plays and then add that extra step.
Yeah. Dudley?
I would say in Arkansas and Little Rock that they use the technology really well on the sidelines this weekend. I'm not getting on War Memorial Stadium. It's just how it is. I wish things could be like it went. But the iPads worked. The helmet communication worked. The bathrooms did not. The water did not. The food did not. The ticket takers did not. But other than that, scoreboard, how did you, for that, how did you like the play, Mrs. Lincoln?
I knew you'd say that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they didn't work in Alabama. We talked to Rodney Orr yesterday, and the helmet cams went out, or the helmet mics went out.
Really? Yeah. And you know what? You think about Alabama football in 2019, Dylan Moses, their middle linebacker from Baton Rouge Laboratory High School, got injured. He was the guy who did all the checks at that middle linebacker position. In 2019, the reason I bring this up is Alabama lost 2 games. They gave up 46 at Bryant-Denny to LSU and 48 on the road to a freshman quarterback, Bo Nix, at Auburn. It matters who you got out there on that field. I mean, it absolutely does. Hey, great conversation, man. I'm just going to say this right now. I've got nothing personal against Billy Napier, but I do love the SEC, and I love Florida because that's always been a rival game for Auburn and Tennessee. You know that. Arkansas went down there and beat them last year. If they make a change, I think Lane Kiffin's going to stay at Ole Miss. I'd go after Bill O'Brien. He's a fixer, and the son of a gun knows what he's doing. And I'd bring in someone like Bill Belichick's son as my defensive coordinator. He's out there. He's out there. I'm telling you, he's like his dad. He's a genius. But hey,
the updates on that is I'm seeing all sorts of everyone's posting. Is Billy gone? Is it gone? Is Strickland fired? He didn't show up for a podcast or flights in the air. Like I'm
already hearing that.
Oh no, I got checking the plane, checking the airport. Look, I know all about that crazy game. Yeah, but so there's nothing to report if everyone's wondering. All those people that think they know, good for you. But we'll see. I don't think anyone knows. So.
All I'm saying is that if they were to make a change mid-season, late season, I just think Bill O'Brien. I just watched what he did at Penn State, watched what he did at other places, and now he at Boston College gets a win. But one thing for sure is, if you keep looking out of the rearview mirror, that's the quote of the night is they're thinking about all the things but the right things, and that's your next game. Guys, awesome. Follow Vince Ferrara, Dudley Dawson, Hogville.net, Vince on the Sports Animal. For Brendan Martin, our executive producer, and everybody and all of our sponsors, God bless America. We live in the greatest country in the history of the world. Watch the Buddy Martin Show tonight. You will not want to miss it. Great stuff as always. See you tomorrow.
Now more than ever, it is so important to shop local and to buy American. For 60 years, Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company has been on the historic Collierville Square, and we strive to sell made in the USA products when available. With over 7,000 pairs of Western boots and work boots in stock for men and women, come and see our huge selection of clothing, jeans, and accessories from top brands made in the USA. Please support local business and come shop with us at Hewlett & Dunn Boot and Clothing Company. God bless the USA.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.